Welcome, comrades. This is our new show On the Barricades. It's delivered to you by the editorial crew of the web portal thebarricade.online, which is delivered to you with the effort of journalists and academics and activists from Eastern Europe. And today our special guest is Eleftheria Angeli. She is an economist and a researcher at the Nikos Poulantzas Institute in Athens, in Greece. Her current research is based on topics related to economy and sustainable growth in Greece. She has formerly worked at the European Parliament for the Syriza delegation on Regional Development Committee from 2016 to 2019. Academically, she has completed her master's degree at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, United Kingdom. She is a member of the Central Board of the Youth of Syriza and a member of the International Affairs Committee. She's also coordinating the youth working group of the Party of the European Left. Welcome to the show, Eleftheria.
It's very, very nice to meet you, and thank you for having me.
I thank you for giving us the opportunity to dive into this very curious and quite frightening topic regarding Greece and the political arena in Greece, where apparently a far-right organization, a fascist organization, some call it a Nazi organization, called the Golden Dawn, became a serious player, or at least that's how it was discussed. How it has been discussed in the international media for the last at least couple of years. And before you give us like a larger picture, like before we discuss the organization itself, I wanna ask you what actually happened in the beginning of that month, because there was a trial and there were some great expectations from what I gather, because it was enough to even look at the demonstration or whatever, the rally in front of the court's building, where people who are leaders of that apparently criminal organization, not only far-right politically, Golden Dawn, have been on trial. And the rally, like about 50,000 people, some sources say even 70,000. I'm sure it would have been much larger had it not been for the COVID pandemics and so on and so forth. So, I want to ask you, what actually happened? What was the court hearing? What was the court sentence? What happened on that day? And why is this so important?
Thank you very, very much for your question. Actually, this trial that has been going on for the last 5.5 years, surprisingly, someone would say, is one of the biggest trials of Greek history, and definitely the one and only trial regarding fascist and neo-Nazi organizations after World War II. The trial started in 2015. So as I said earlier, it's already 5.5 years. It took so much time and effort by the people being dragged in the court. Families from people being affected by this neo-Nazi organization. As you said earlier, at the beginning of the month, finally, the 7th of October, Golden Dawn was accused by the Athens Appeal Court, ruled that the Golden Dawn is operating as a criminal organization. The accused people of Golden Dawn was 68 in total, 7 leaders of the organization and 61 members. Amongst other issues, they were accused of murder, they were accused of vandalizing, they were accused of the leaders of running a criminal organization. And I have to be honest, I was there. I am sure that if the COVID situation was not present, there would have been so many more people. It was a fiesta of democracy. Finally, people felt that this, because it was also a society waiting, not only the families, but also a whole society in Greece waiting for this criminal organization to finally being convicted. Until today, we still don't know the actual penalties that those people will be forced to receive. I mean, the suggestions prosecutor have been there, but they are still under discussion, because there have been many discussions about suspending the penalties, not going to prison, meaning, which is very, very disturbing. I'm sure we will have time later to speak about the situation and all this. Let's keep that in mind. There have been murders. There have been murders of Pavlos Fissas in 2013. There have been murders of Saksat Lukman, a Pakistani person living in Athens. There have been many attacks. There have been pogroms in market, attacks mainly in ethnic minorities, homosexual political opponents. But it was a huge manifestation of democracy, the 7th of October.
Okay, well, I'm pretty shocked to hear all of that. First of all, because as a journalist, I have to confess that I'm a political junkie. Okay, I follow the news, the 24/7 cycle. I read as much as as much as it's possible, because it's just a given amount of things that you can follow, right? But I'm surprised, because we are. Yeah, I'm based in Poland. Okay, by birth I'm Bulgarian. By conviction I'm an internationalist. But I happened to be based and to live in Poland, and we have been complaining, for the last 6 years that our situation is so bad because we've got this right-wing government. It's a Catholic fundamentalist one, encouraging violence against, ethnic minority, whatever. We don't have much ethnic minorities. It's not like in the Balkans here, but against like refugees, against LGBT, like what have you, right? And yet, like it didn't, we don't have this, what you just explained. Like we didn't have murders. We didn't have like this gangsterism, like people, whatever, Pakistani or from wherever, being beaten to death, pogroms on markets or stuff like that. That sounds really, really scary. Like, when did it all start?
The Golden Dawn as an organization, it has been operating, let's say, for many years. I think it was the 80s that it first started, but actually the first time that it managed to enter the Greek parliament was in 2012, and actually with a percentage of almost 7%. So they managed to actually being democratically elected and represent the Hellenic parliament. This is a scary thing, if you ask me, because at some point in 2015, they managed to be a third force in Greece. The first one was Syriza, and the third one was Golden Dawn. It's not funny at all. It's surprising that already in 2010, those people started to get visibility, even in the media, even in newspapers. They started to gain more and more political ground. What I mean is that many people didn't even know that they existed. But then there was media that started to show their lifestyle and everything like that, the young man that salutes in a Nazi way. But what are his secrets in his personal life? All this lifestyle covered and given more and more space, political ground, and place in the everyday agenda. What I mean by that is that after the crisis, the financial crisis, it's historically proven that the positive or a very, very negative way comes to fill the political void that is being created. So they start presenting themselves like the people that they say no to memoranda, they say no to supervisory by the CB or the IMF or everything like that. They started presenting themselves more and more like anti-systematic party. So that was appealing at this time. Many young people started turning towards those people. They also started in a covered way, helping the elder, for example, receiving money from ATMs because some horrible criminal migrant would attack them to take their money. They started offering food to the poor, just to cover the ideas under the organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're trying to say that is, if I understood it correctly, is that on the one hand, there are three factors here, from what I gather. First is the natural polarization of society, political polarization of society in the times of crisis, and I think it's very important because, particularly the European Union played a role here, in vis-a-vis Greece, and all this. I don't want to go into that, but we all know what happened to Greece and who perpetrated it, right? The Troika, the ECB, the IMF, and the World Bank, and all the financial institutions. And I think it's important for our viewers to consume that idea that, all these fascist, neo-Nazi, far-right forces that everybody is lamenting about, quite justifiably, quite rightly, they didn't come out of nowhere, or they were not born out of the natural demoralization of societies like many people try to present that, but they were born in a crisis, in a critical situation and there are factors, international factors responsible for that thing to happen. And that, the crisis, the financial crisis, particularly the one of the 2008, it really gave a huge boost to all those organizations. And that's one factor, okay? The second factor, which I also think is very important, is the question of the attitude of the media, which seem to have elevated, not only in Greece, but pretty much like across the old continent, have elevated these elements because they appear to be curious, right? They have like weird lifestyle, there's something unusual about them. About the way they behave, about their political views. They are so radical. It could be cool. They use the Nazi salute. I mean, this is crazy, right? This is absolutely like beyond, my moral imagination, so to say. But then, yes, that's happened. And that's pretty much what happened also in America. When you look at Trump, he was the favorite of the media because he's a con man, he's a con artist, and he's got this, robust manners, right? And that's the second element, but also it speaks to the problem that the media have shaped also and have played a role in shaping the attitude of the society towards such right-wing, far-right phenomenon.
Exactly.
So it's like in Poland or in Bulgaria, for that matter, like the two countries I know most about. When the refugee crisis started, for example, the first initial reactions of the society, they were very positive and very humanitarian, if you like. It's only after the media intervened and, having elevated these apparently like trying to present them as anti-systemic elements, which they are not, but that's how they presented themselves, the far right, I mean, they kind of created the atmosphere. They facilitated the process of turning the entire public opinion against the refugees. Okay,
I have something very, very interesting to add at this point, because I talked about how they managed to enter the Hellenic Parliament, and of course in 2015 they were elected again. And as I said earlier, they were the third power. What is very, very interesting at that point, and I catch the ball, let's say, from you talking about the refugee crisis, we have to say at this point that Greece was one of the countries that had to carry a huge burden regarding the refugee crisis. with the islands receiving many people on a daily basis. And the interesting part regarding Golden Dawn at this period, while the Syriza government was ruling, was that even if the refugee crisis was so big and the flows of people were so huge and daily on a daily basis, the society, the reflections of were so pro solidarity, help, understanding, that these people try to flee from war. That was exactly the period that, even if, as you said earlier, Golden Dawn had the opportunity, let's say, to gain more and more ground, this period that less and less visible. Exactly, because the government and the whole state tried to encourage the reflections of people wanting to help those people and wanting to help the situation. And were hidden, let's say, for a long time in this, as I said earlier, okay, the Golden Dawn trial started in 2015. That was also a factor that enabled the hiding of people, because at some point when the trial starts, even voters that they think that they radically vote for this party, they back off a bit and they understand that something could be wrong with them. But this period was exactly the one that Golden Dawn was less and less visible. And it was the Prespes Agreement, if you are familiar with North Macedonia, that again enabled the reflections of those neo-Nazi people trying to gain again the political void. Fortunately, the Golden Dawn conviction, the appeal court followed the conviction by society. In 2019, that we had the national elections, Golden Dawn was kicked out of the Hellenic Parliament, and they did not manage to gain the percentage of 3% to enter the Hellenic Parliament. This is very, very important, because that it's not that they were convicted by society in terms. They were firstly convicted in society and democracy. They were left out and kicked out of the trial. The court condemned them as well legally. But of course, at this point, I have to highlight, and then I will leave to the floor, that this does not mean the fact that they did not manage to get into the parliament, the fact that they are condemned. It does not mean, of course, that we are done with this disease, let's say.
That's right. Well, I understand that the society has rejected them, but you also said that the society had invited them first. In a way, they were elected to the parliament, right? They played a role there, a destructive one, I can imagine. But it's like they were part of the official mainstream political scene, okay, in Greece. And I wonder, have all these things happened before or after they were elected? I mean, all these murders, homicides, pogroms, and stuff like that. This violence, this right-wing, fascist, Nazi, whatever violence, has it been there all the time? And despite knowing about that, the public opinion, or part of the public opinion, part of the society, had actually elected them? Or was it like it happened after they were elected and things were revealed and then people rejected them?
As I want to stress at this point that, okay, that society invited them, as we said earlier, many factors that, as the less, it's very wrong to just point the finger to society. These crimes started actually after they were elected. The first point, they were just trying to keep a low profile and just open up their agenda of the no memorandum, no how to say it, no poverty Greece, no the radicalization far right agenda, and the fact that as we talked earlier, media not even did not talk about crimes, but also don't even want to say it. They just presented and projected things in strong and distorted ways sometimes that they killed, for example, Pavlos Fissas, this rap singer in Greece for football, or that he didn't mean to, or stuff like that. This is completely unacceptable, and it was...
Right. So what you're basically saying is that they were obviously running from, at least from, since a certain point, they were running a criminal organization, okay, a dangerous criminal organization, and the media were covering up, in fact.
Of course.
Like,
and yeah, of course. And not just the media. There were even many people from the current government that they were then talking about the from the left and not from Golden Dawn. There were leaders from the current government talking about, okay, we could cooperate with a serious Golden Dawn. These, these phrases cannot even come out of my mouth sometimes, and I cannot even believe it. They were called to be the participants in the trial, and they didn't even show up. So it's not only the responsibility of the media, it's actually the responsibility of other political forces that they saw the enemy in the left that was then gaining more and more ground.
Okay,
and
thank you. Well,
that's
that's the point, that's the bottom line, really, because what you seem to be saying is that these people, and I totally agree with you. I wasn't trying to blame the Greek society by saying that they invited them. I was just trying to find a way to express that the fact that someone had elected them to the parliament. But in fact, what you just said, and I think it's very profound. It's the establishment. It's a class issue, like the ruling class, okay? The those who are in power, those who have the power and those who have the capital, they chose to support in one way or another, in a more overt or a more covert manner, to support, to invite Golden Dawn into the game in order to have leverage against the left, okay? Because that was it might have been that they didn't like them, right? But they still would have preferred to work with Golden Dawn, Nazi, fascist gangs and gangsters and so on and so forth, rather, in order to prevent the left from, prevailing politically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a really scary thing. And also, the fact, the third factor that I was going to kind of talk about a little earlier is what you said is that this camouflage that the right-wing extremists like to use is they like to pose, to use left-wing slogans, left-wing agenda sometimes in order to present themselves as a legit force, okay, that they really want to help you, that they struggle against the system, that they are, it's all our stuff. I mean, it's us who are against the system, and it's us who want to help. And the thing is that they seem to have approached it in this very direct way, like what you said, for example, about helping poor people, helping elderly people go about withdrawing cash from ATMs and stuff like that. So they went directly without any institutions. They just went directly to the people. And I also, it sometimes makes me think like ourselves as the left, we should also think more about that kind of stuff. But thanks for that perspective. Now, could you tell me a little more, because you mentioned that it started in the 80s. Could you tell me just a little more about how it developed? I mean, what are the roots of this organization? Did it start as a regular, so to say, regular right-wing opposition, or are there any fascist traditions, if you like, in Greece, which could have or which had the chance to turn to be expressed in a form of a viable fascist organization that entered the political arena.
Yeah, the Golden Dawn organization admitted actually to have roots in the Metaxas, goes back to World War II dictator of Greece, that they use a lot of this idea. Also, many of them, they are great supporters of the junta dictatorship of 69 until 70. So it was an organization that the first time they actually decided elections 2009 in the European elections. But said earlier, they managed to enter in 2012 in the Hellenic Parliament, visible in Greek society, exactly because there was no need. They jumped into this opportunity the moment the crisis came. So the motto that we don't need any foreign people coming to steal our job. We are hungry. I will not care about the person from another country next to me when I don't have a job or I don't have food. They, as I said earlier, from the media, they started promoting more and more this lifestyle of, the very traditional one with the family, with the father, with the religion very high, the children and the normal family, with the woman respecting the husband, So, and okay, where people, they had swastikas, a tattoo on their hands, and they were journalists. I'm sure that you will be ashamed of them in your occupation as well, that they were asking them, okay, so tell me, what is behind this serious face, and what is going back to your family at night? Do you play with your children? Are you a normal person creating this lifestyle? They are the everyday people of next door.
All right, so the media was covering up for their crimes, plus they were normalizing them. That's what
exactly.
Okay, that's and you're right. Just for the record, I want to say that I'm absolutely appalled by the situation in journalism internationally, especially for the last 5 years. I think the profession is almost dead. But that's another topic. I want to start off about that. Okay, so. Now, could you briefly tell me what was the reaction of the left once they started gaining momentum, this Golden Dawn, when they were undergoing this medial procedure, of normalization? How did the left react? And I'm talking about Syriza, of course, but perhaps also other organizations in and out of parliament also had undertaken some sort of initiatives that are worth discussing in a way that anti-fascism is a very important component of the left, activity, doctrine, ideas, and so on and so forth. Yet, I mean, you seem to have had to exercise your anti-fascism in a very direct manner. You had to confront these Nazi gangsters on the streets. So please tell me about it. Like how did it all go? How did it all happen? How did this process look like?
Okay, of course, the left had a huge responsibility, and at this point, it's very interesting to mention that radical doesn't mean necessarily left, as we said earlier. So they presenting themselves like radical people. It was in a time of crisis, very, very vague, in a science, what is wrong with them and what is wrong with them. And of course, the media, apart from promoting people like them in a neo-Nazi fascist perception, At the same time, they were demonizing the left. The time that Golden Dawn was first elected in the party in 2012 was exactly the time that Syriza. I will talk about Syriza because, of course, I have huge respect about the left in general, but I belong to this political family, and I want to refer to them. Generally, it was the Syriza started as well to gain more and more political ground, and they were elected. They were second in 2012 in the Hellenic Parliament. So that shows exactly this polar, the very, very distinguished polars of, at the same time, two radical families, let's say, trying to fight for the same, against the same. So against the memorandum, against all the poverty that Greece had to face. In 2012, the anti-fascist movement started to be more and more needed, and to understand the huge responsibility that it had towards society. There were many weaknesses, to be honest. The reflections said earlier were many at this time. There was parallel with the fascist mobility, let's say, there was an anti-fascist movement stressing out how toxic and how criminal these people were. But if I have to do some self-criticism, I would say that the left back then had some weaknesses, realizing the responsibility that it had.
Okay, so perhaps, like, I don't want you to confess your
no, but I just stress it out.
But what I would like you to do is perhaps you could give us you could give us some advice, like what should not be done in a when we're confronted with this kind of political menace. Because you said, okay, we've made some mistakes, and I don't want you to, now like run, list all of them out. But I would like you to tell us, like, in terms of process, like what should be done, or what shouldn't be done. Like, what are the failures that you would be prepared to warn other left-wing organizations, activists throughout Europe, that what is it that they should or should not do in order to be able to, confront this kind of dangerous phenomenon in a more effective manner?
Of course, it would be almost funny to say that we have the solutions to this huge matter, but I would say that we need to protect society in the first place from being in the same, let's say, fate. No, that was an actual Greek translation, sorry, but dealing with the left and the right in the same way. Like we have in Greece, the theory of the two poles, let's say. It's wrong to deal with communism, let's say, the same way as fascism, okay? And that was very vividly promoted in the media, and actually some in society have this ideology as well. It's very non-correct and helpful to call on the fights that it had constantly made and fought, and comparing it to, in Greece case, the Golden Dawn. Because in the dialogue these days, I have heard more and more the fact that, see now the fascists and Nazis of Golden Dawn coward, and they cry when they face their court decision, and look at them, while the communists were very brave and very, proud and all these things. Let's talk about something at this point. It is a different thing, criticizing us, appalling as they are, and horrible as they are, those people were not convicted for their ideas. Even if these ideas were Nazi tattoos in their arms, they were not convicted for ideas, while communists, especially in Greece in the past, were convicted about their ideas. Those people were convicted about murders, homicides, beating up people, leading this criminal organization. It's completely different. So just to answer your question, of course, I couldn't even take the responsibility to tell you what is wrong and what is right. I think that as the left, and especially now, because after COVID, a new crisis is coming, new refugee crisis and flows are coming because of COVID, but also because of climate change. And so we have a huge responsibility to gather and to hold this society to make them they reflect pro solidarity, not just say that we have done everything that we could. We should not criticize society. We should be by their side, trying to make them express reflections of solidarity, help, and not solutions but solutions for societies.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. I totally agree with you that we've had enough of this liberal nonsense where, people should be just treated as like nations or societies should be treated as like a collection or a sum of individual choices or something like that. I totally agree with you. But I think it's pretty important what you said in the beginning of your answer. And I also find it very, a popular phenomenon, so to say, that the media is trying to use this false symmetrism, that there is, the one pole, which is very dangerous, which is like the extreme right-wing fascism, Nazism, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, equally dangerous, communism, socialism, expropriation of property, and so on and so forth. And I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's not really a funny matter.
No.
But it's it's so beyond any reason. Like on the one hand, you've got someone who stands for solidarity, for people being equally treated, for people respecting each other, for people not being exploited, for people to stop the wars, and so. And on the other hand, you've got people who who want to be violent against literally anyone who is not a white, straight, rich, healthy male, right? And you put it together and you say, oh, those are equally dangerous. Then we have to go and find, the solution in the center, which is like, incremental centrism, radical centrism, whatever you want to call it. It really makes me sick. But right. But I think you're totally right that our focus should be on combating this incremental centrism and this false, completely made up symmetrism that we are just the mirror image somehow, like we the left. I mean, we are somehow the mirror image of the Nazis because we also want to do all these horrendous things to the society, which is absolutely totally not the case. And I also feel that it's our responsibility to develop left-wing alternative media, because if we are not going to have that, we're never going to be able to massively convey that message. But I also want to ask about about what's going to happen. I mean, what are the prospects? Because this organization, the court found them guilty. You said 63 people, if I remember correctly. Some of them with 68. Sorry, thank you. So 68 people, some of them with leading positions in this political criminal organization. And now, they're going to be convicted. We're not even sure, from what I gather, like were they going to go to prison or not? Because maybe they're going to just have the suspended sentences or whatever, which is very strange, I must say, because if we're talking about murders and all kinds of other criminal acts, then, how is the court not suspicious? I mean, how is the court not suspecting that they actually might continue and might even, get strengthened in a way by this attack, what they would perceive as the attack on the part of the state, okay, on them? If they're gonna be if they're not going to prison, then they might just reorganize. They might go underground. All kinds of things might happen. I mean, is this not a matter of public concern?
Let me tell you something very interesting now that you're mentioning it. Two interesting things, actually. The first one is that the prosecutor herself is the one that is suggesting that they could not go to prison because no proof actually that they will do those crimes again, and also because the proof for the previous crimes is not very solid. So let's say that there is a core rotten itself in the justice itself that it's making very, very hard people to end up where they belong, which is prison. The second interesting part is that actually, even if they are convicted, they lose their political rights, which means that because here they will be reorganized. I will stress that out a bit and be a bit not dramatic but exaggerating, let's say, by answering that even if they all go to prison, they can perfectly run for elections, be elected, vote. It's shocking, but it's actually true. Also, what I said earlier is that and let's say that they all end up in prison and there is a happy story in this. This does not mean by any chance that we are done with them. In 2019, the national elections, there was another party called the Hellenic Solution, the Greek solution, that managed to enter the parliament that has as well far-right characteristics. Some of the votes of Golden Dawn actually ended up in the current government. So it is very naive to say that even if those people are convicted, they are actually end up in prison, that we are done with this problem. So it doesn't mean it is a huge win society for justice for people that have suffered, actually their families and personally, from this organization, but it does not mean that huge work left now it's done. So
so it's just a step in a right direction, and I'm kind of appalled by what you said about the prosecutor's attitude and the kind of court's attitude in a way that they don't know whether we want to put them to prison, whether they want to ban the organization because maybe the evidence isn't solid enough. And so much for the rule of law, I would say. But I can ask this question because I came across some articles while preparing for the discussion we're having right now, that I came across information that Golden Dawn, that they were pretty strong, particularly in the police. Like that the police apparently had, or individual policemen maybe, I mean, I don't know how massive it was, maybe you could tell us, that they were popular there, like within law enforcement as a political party organization. And I'm just wondering, maybe through the police, they also have some connections in the judiciary. What can you tell us about it?
I would be lying if I said that police generally has not far-right, violent, and sometimes fascist characteristics. In Greece, there have been many times demonstrations and public gatherings, and have been ended by police forces. I don't know percentages general, but I will talk about my area, which is actually a radical area, someone left radical, very historic in Athens. And there in the elections, because there is a police department very close to my area, they had 3% voting of Golden Dawn.
16 or 60?
60, which is very, very shocking.
That's terrible.
Because and that those people that do not realize their job are as law enforcement. I don't like this term, but to protect actually society, they role as violent soldiers of protecting something, and so they find opportunities which from time to time are to express violent tendencies. For me, it's not shocking at all. I wouldn't know about justice, but with this prosecutor that I told you earlier, I don't know, I can expect anything.
Right. All right. So thanks very much for this description, account, analysis. I'd like to ask one last question. What's next? Because you said it yourself. The work is not done. We still have to confront, this fascist disease, as you quite rightly described it. We still have to confront it as the left, and you still have to confront it as the Greek left. And I want to ask, what are you going to do? Because regardless of whether they're going to go to prison or not, they can still run their fascist mafia, right? What campaigns are you contemplating? What ideas do you have for, I don't know, for now or for next year? How are you gonna, handle this huge problem?
Okay. Used to end a discussion with a positive injection, and this is what I will actually do for closure. But I just need to repeat something earlier. When I talked about this in 2015 with a huge coming, and this was the period that Golden Dawn was not almost visible, it expresses out as well, again and again. We encourage the reflexes of society to encourage either violent misanthropist reflections or the ones of solidarity, help, and internationalism. So it's a huge the crisis that is coming from COVID puts me me personally, and I think generally Syriza, in deep thought about whether the reaction of people, if the inequalities rise, if the poverty, how are the people going to react? This, I think, that is a huge concern. However, and then here, because I feel those dark times to put some positive injection in the conversation, I would say that no battle is lost. The anti-fascist movement in Greece is still very, very high. It's rising, and the 7th of October highlighted exactly how strong the need is for the anti-fascist movement to keep moving, to keep struggling, to keep fighting. I think as the left in the future times, it is exactly our responsibility to be a shield between far-right regime, let's say, and the neoliberal doctrine that is, as we saw with COVID, it's slowly, destroyed by itself. It's very dangerous that since the neoliberal doctrine is, almost abandoned, that something darker will come, like in the US. So it is exactly this time that the anti-fascist movement in Greece has to stay strong. It has to stay vivid. It has to stay responsible and so to people. With what is coming, I think that solidarity actions in each and every neighborhood has to be present. to show that, we are there for each other. And as you said perfectly earlier, that there is not a single solution for a single person, but they are collective solutions for societies. So it is more than ever the responsibility of the left not to point the finger to society about making some wrong choices from time to time, but to be there by their side and walk this difficult road that we will actually walk in the future, very near future.
That's right. Thank you, Eleftheria Ageli. Keep fighting. And
thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much.
I wish you the best.
Same.